Well, 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 look who they couldn't break. Look who walked through hell and didn't even flinch. You won alone. And now it's eating them alive. Yeah, let that sink in. While they were busy laughing, doubting, whispering your name like it was a joke. You were out there bleeding in silence, fighting battles nobody even knew existed. No backup, no "you got this" messages, no hands reaching out when you were drowning, just you. And that voice in your head that refused to die. You see, people love the idea of your struggle, but they feared the reality of your victory. Because your victory exposes them. It shows who pretended. It shows who disappeared. It shows who secretly prayed you wouldn't make it. And now they're choking on the truth they tried to ignore. You didn't need them. That's the part that hurts them the most. Not that you won, but that you won without them. See, anyone can clap when it's easy. Anyone can stand beside you when the lights are on and the cameras are rolling. But where were they when your world was collapsing? Where were they when you were questioning your own worth at 3 a.m.? Where were they when you had nothing left but pain and a decision? Give up or become something they could never understand. And you chose the second one. That's why your energy changed. That's why your silence got louder. That's why your presence now makes people uncomfortable. Because you didn't just survive, you transformed. You became the storm they thought would destroy you. And now they look at you, confused. How did you do it? When did you change? Why don't you need anyone anymore? But they don't deserve that answer. Because they weren't there when it cost you everything. They didn't see the nights you almost gave up. They didn't hear the thoughts screaming in your head. They didn't feel the weight you carried alone. So they don't get to understand the strength you built in silence. Let them wonder. Let them watch. Let them feel that quiet pressure in their chests every time your name comes up. Because deep down, they know. They know they underestimated you. They know they misjudged you. They know they lost access to someone they'll never replace. And that realization, that's what's eating them alive. Not revenge, not anger, just your existence, your growth, your peace, your power. That's the real punishment. You didn't scream, you didn't chase, you didn't beg to be understood. You just evolved. And now you walk different. You think different. You move like someone who has nothing left to prove, because you already proved it to yourself. And that's a level most people will never reach. So keep going. Stay silent. Stay focused. Stay dangerous. Because the scariest thing you can be is someone who lost everything and still became unstoppable. And here's the part they'll never admit. They missed the version of you that needed them. Yeah, the weaker you, the softer you, the one who tolerated disrespect just to keep the peace. But that version, dead. Buried the night you realized no one was coming to save you. Buried the moment you wiped your own tears and said, enough. See, people get comfortable when you're struggling. It makes them feel superior. It makes them feel safe. But the moment you rise, you become a threat. Not because you changed into something fake, but because you finally became real. And real power. It doesn't beg, it doesn't explain, it doesn't chase approval. It just exists and makes the weak uncomfortable. Now look at them, watching you from a distance, analyzing your every move, trying to figure out how someone they underestimated became someone they can't ignore. It bothers them, it haunts them, because deep down, they know if they had your mindset, They wouldn't have survived what you did. They would have quit. But you stayed. You endured. You built yourself from nothing but pain and discipline. And now you carry a presence that can't be copied. That's why your silence is louder than their noise. That's why your absence hits harder than their words. You don't need validation anymore. And that right there, that's freedom. No more explaining yourself. No more shrinking to fit into spaces that never deserved you. No more giving energy to people who only show up when it benefits them. Now it's different. Now you move with intention. Now you protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. And the craziest part? You didn't become cold. You just became selective. There's a difference. You still have a heart, but now it has boundaries. You still care, but not at the cost of your sanity. You still love, but only where it's respected. That's growth. That's power. That's the version of you they never thought they'd see. And now they're stuck with the consequences of how they treated you when you were still becoming this person. No access, no second chances, no explanations, just distance and regret. So don't look back. Don't question your journey. Don't feel guilty for outgrowing people who couldn't grow with you. Because you didn't win by luck. You won by surviving what was meant to break you alone. And if you did it once, imagine what happens now that you know your own power. And listen, lean in for a second. Because this next part, this is where it gets dangerous. Not for you, for them. See, they thought your silence meant weakness. They thought you disappearing meant you were lost. They thought when you stopped explaining yourself, you gave up. But what they didn't realize is you weren't disappearing, you were detaching, cutting cords, breaking chains, rewiring your mind in the dark where nobody could interrupt you. While they were busy talking, you were busy transforming. That's why when you came back, you didn't come back loud. You came back different, colder, sharper, focused in a way that scares people who still move off emotions. And now they don't recognize you, not because you changed into something fake, but because you finally removed everything that wasn't you. Let that hit. You didn't lose yourself. You found yourself. Under all the expectations, the fake loyalty, the forced smiles. And once you see that truth, there's no going back. That's why conversations feel shallow now. That's why certain people feel heavy to be around. That's why your energy pulls away before your mind even explains why. Because you've evolved past what once felt normal. And they feel it. Oh, they feel it. Every time you don't react. Every time you don't respond. Every time you walk past them like they're just another face in the crowd. It burns, because they remember a version of you who would have given them attention. And now, they get nothing. No anger, no explanation, no closure, just silence. And silence is the loudest answer you could ever give. Because silence says, I see you. I just don't value you anymore. And that destroys egos, that shatters illusions, that forces people to sit with the consequences of how they treated you when you were accessible. But here's the truth you need to lock into your mind. You didn't become this way by accident. This version of you, it was built through nights you thought you wouldn't survive, through moments you questioned everything, through pain that rewrote your identity piece by piece. You earned this. Every ounce of discipline, every boundary, every ounce of self-respect you carry now. You paid for it, in tears, in silence, in isolation. So no, you don't owe anyone access to this version of you. Not anymore. Because access is a privilege. and they lost it. The moment they doubted you, the moment they disrespected you, the moment they chose convenience over loyalty, they made their choice. And now they have to live with it. While you keep rising, not for revenge, not for validation, but because you finally understand something most people never will. Your power was never in them, it was always in you. And now that you've unlocked it, there's no limit to how far you can go. And now, let's go even deeper. Because what you've stepped into, most people don't even have the courage to face it. You're not just strong now. You're awake. You see through the fake smiles. You hear the hidden tones behind words. You feel intentions before people even act on them. That level of awareness, it's a blessing and a curse. Because now, you can't unsee anything. You can't go back to being naive. You can't pretend you don't notice disrespect. You can't force yourself to fit into spaces that drain your soul. So what happens? You outgrow people fast. And that scares them. Because one day you were there, available, present, reachable. And the next, you're distant, untouchable, moving like someone who finally understands their worth. And they don't know how to deal with that version of you. Because that version doesn't tolerate what the old you used to accept. No more fake loyalty. No more one-sided effort. No more lowering your standards just to keep people around. Now it's simple, respect or distance. And most people, they fail that test. That's why your circle got smaller. That's why your phone got quieter. That's why the same people who once had access to you now watch you from the outside. But don't mistake that loss for loneliness. Because what you gained, peace, clarity, control over your own energy, and that right there is priceless. See, people think power is loud. They think it's dominance, attention, control over others. But real power is waking up and not needing anyone to validate your existence. Real power is walking away without explaining yourself to people who already showed you who they are. Real power is choosing yourself even when it means standing alone. And you mastered that. That's why your presence feels different now. You don't chase conversations. You don't force connections. You don't try to be understood anymore. Because you realized something critical. The right people don't need explanations. And the wrong people will never understand you anyway. So why waste your energy? Let them misunderstand you. Let them create their own stories. Let them paint you as the villain if it helps them sleep at night. Because while they're busy talking, you're busy elevating. Every day, you're getting sharper. Every day, your mindset is getting stronger. Every day, you're becoming more disciplined, more focused, more untouchable. And that consistency, that's what separates you now. Not talent, not luck. Discipline, the ability to keep going even when nobody is watching. The ability to stay locked in even when motivation disappears. The ability to build in silence while everyone else is distracted. That's why your results hit different. Because they weren't handed to you, they were earned. Piece by piece, day by day, alone. And now you've reached a point where, even if everything disappeared again, you'd rebuild it stronger, faster, colder. Because the real power was never external. It was always internal. And once you realize that, fear disappears. Because what can the world take from someone who already survived losing everything? Nothing. And that is the most dangerous version of you to ever exist. And this is where it shifts. This is where you stop surviving and start dominating your own reality. Because let's be real, you're not the same person anymore. The things that used to break you, they barely even touch you now. The people who used to have access to your emotions, they can't even reach you anymore. And that scares them, because they can feel it. They can feel that you're gone, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, energetically. You checked out of every space that didn't respect you, and you never looked back. That's power. But here's the part that most people won't tell you. This level comes with isolation, not loneliness. Isolation. Because when you start thinking different, moving different, seeing the world for what it really is, you realize how rare your mindset actually is. You realize most people are stuck in validation, stuck in comfort, stuck repeating the same cycles they complain about. And you broke the pattern. That's why you can't relate to them anymore. That's why small talk feels exhausting. That's why fake energy irritates your soul. That's why you'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who don't understand you. And that's not arrogance, that's awareness. You've seen too much to go back. You've felt too much to settle again. You've grown too much to shrink yourself just to make others comfortable. So now you protect your energy like it's everything because it is. You don't argue anymore. You don't prove your point. You don't waste time explaining your intentions to people committed to misunderstanding you. You observe, you analyze, and when necessary, you disappear. Because not every battle deserves your presence. Not every person deserves your attention. Not every situation deserves your reaction. That's a level of control most people never reach. And that's why you win now, effortlessly. Not because life got easier, but because you got smarter, sharper, more disciplined. You learned when to speak and when to stay silent, when to show up and when to walk away, when to give energy and when to completely withdraw it. And that control, that's what makes you dangerous, because unpredictable people are impossible to manipulate. They don't know how to read you anymore. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know how to get a reaction out of you. And when people can't control you, they start to fear you. But understand this clearly, you didn't become this way to intimidate anyone. You became this way to protect yourself. From fake love, from hidden agendas, from people who only saw your value when it was convenient for them. And now your standards are different. Now your circle is earned, not given. Now your trust is built slowly and lost instantly. That's not cold. That's calculated. That's evolved. So keep moving the way you do. Silent, focused, unbothered. Let them keep watching. Let them keep guessing. Let them keep talking. Because while they're trying to figure you out, you're building a life they'll never be able to touch.